Thank you for joining us for another episode of Debunking Girl Math, which is a podcast here at Norfolk College that has been funded by the RCCD Foundation and in partnership with the Moja program. We're so happy to have an opportunity to have these conversations where we address common day issues or social media trends that deal with spending and how different people spend differently on different items. So it's been an interesting project that has come together as a result of in class conversations. I'm Tamara Cummings. I'm your professor of economics here at Norfolk College. So we have co host here. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Cole Cunningham, and I can't wait to get into today's episode.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cameron Card, and let's get on into it.
Hello, everyone, and I'm Diane. I'm here with my fabulous panel again.
Hey everyone, this is Anna Macias, and let's get into this girl math.
Let's get into it. So, we're talking about this issue of buying. We've talked about buying, we've talked about consumption and how we consume differently. And we ask ourselves, do we spend differently or do we perceive spending differently when it's an everyday item versus when we spend on food? Certainly, if we were in class, what would we be talking about? Probably price elasticity, luxury goods, normal goods, substitute goods, inferior goods, and the list goes on. But we're really not in class. We're talking about these things in everyday life. So, do we spend differently, and how do you perceive your money, your budget, when it comes to an essential item such as food or rent or a car payment versus, let's say, a designer handbag?
I think food for me goes above a designer handbag, but if we have a little extra cash, I might just go for that designer handbag.
Okay.
But I feel like I have to justify it first.
You'll justify
Yeah.
buying the handbag.
Yeah, if I have the extra cash.
How do you justify it? To yourself, to your family, to your banker?
Myself. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so for sure. I have to first think, okay, are all my bills covered? If they're covered,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I can splurge on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
For
Okay.
I think it's also almost kind of like a treat yourself thing at the end of the month. If you have like a little bit of extra cash, you're like, oh, I can spend this on a designer handbag if I have enough. I worked hard this month.
Well, first of all, what is a little bit of extra change? When we talk about designer handbags, it's more than extra, a little bit of extra change. It's a lot of extra change. So, if we're gonna talk about something like treating ourselves and um, basically seeing if it's okay with our inner self to make this big purchase, because when you're buying a designer bag, it is a big purchase.
Would
So
would you call it an investment? I've heard some people say a designer handbag is actually an investment and it has very little risk and it appreciates over time, all terms that we've talked about in the classroom. However, I am curious, do we perceive a designer handbag, let's say a $2,000 designer handbag, to be an investment so I can park my money there and it will retain its value of $2,000 plus a change in its value over some period of time? And then how do you compare that if I can re-inject this notion of how do we consider the money that we need for everyday living, food, shelter, transportation, education, healthcare, safety, communication, and more?
So I believe luxury purchases. For me, I've never experienced nor think want food spend over a couple $100 for a luxury bag. But I think it just comes from a different understanding or maybe wanting to spend it, right? So for me, splurging, I might want to go on a vacation at the end of the month with my children. And so for me, I'll rather splurge on a luxury vacation compared to a luxury bag. And my justification is that we deserve to spend time and I know I'm going to spend the money. So if I wisely spend my money that I'm already going to spend it at the end of the month or even at the end of the 6 months during summer, then I'll be able to budget that according to my monthly savings. And then by the time it won't seem like a huge investment, it would just seem like an expense that I've already incurred.
Sure. I like that idea. So I wonder how many of us have ever had a time And this is not necessarily a Q&A. This is conversation. So if you have your experiences that you want to share, please share them. Has anyone been in a situation where there's a lot more month left at the end of your money, right? It's maybe the 23rd of the month and I'm out of cash, I'm out of money, but I still need to get through the end of the month. And have you ever been in this? How have you resolved that? How have you managed that? Because I would assume food is a priority. And then the second part of it is, let's say you have saved over time, as you indicated, Diane, for a your vacation with your children, a luxury vacation, but it's the 23rd and you're out of money. But you have this savings over here, but the savings was intended for a vacation with the family. So anyone chime in if you have additional thoughts about it. And then how do you reconcile that thought in your head about, how do I prioritize it? Which is what Anna started to talk about, and certainly Cole and Cam have injected also some thoughts.
With this question, I think it kind of brings us to, well, it keeps us on topic, but it also brings us to, if I have money in my savings account that was intended for pretty much vacation, luxury vacation, um, I'm not gonna lie. If my bills are paid, uh, if if my bills are paid, everything is good. I got $2,500 left, and or I can either go to the, grocery store and take out $100, $200 and use that, and my vacation's gone, or I could just say, you know what, family, let's go on a week cruise. It's the 23rd of the month, and it's only going to cost us $2,500 to get on this cruise ship. I would definitely prioritize that over, okay, pretty much going to the grocery store and, you know, taking money out of the savings that was intended for a vacation, because now not only are you getting more for your money, but you're also, um, yeah, you're getting
S-
more for your money.
So you've injected concepts of trade offs, but also
Mm.
economies of scale. And I think that's an interesting idea that if the 23rd comes and I still have the luxury vacation money, however, I have no food in the house, I'm going to try to stretch my $2,500 by doing entertainment, food, shelter, communication, and family time by using it in a way that I probably would not have anticipated. So that's an interesting concept. Anyone else? That was really interesting.
Yeah, I think I would probably be opposite of what Cam decided to do. I would probably just take out the money for the bills. I mean, I don't want to, but at the end of the day, I need to pay those bills, and it's not gonna set me back further as if I went on the cruise for a week. That's gonna cost all my 2,500. But if I just take some out for the bills, I could pay the bills, and I'll still have like maybe 1,700 left in that savings account where I'll just need to save up more and then potentially have to delay my.
That's actually pretty ingenious as well. Let me use the money for something that I need right now so that I don't actually overstretch myself and return from a cruise or a luxury vacation and still have those same bills that I'm responsible for. I think those are two very interesting approaches of resolving this problem that probably many of us have faced. But not only that, so Diane and Anna, I know you want to add to that and please add to it. I also want to ask about this idea of what happens when you've planned out your food, your shelter, you have the money for it, and for some reason, the money runs out. Maybe this thing called inflation.
Mm. Hate her.
So I know she is not a friend, but she is a shadow, isn't she?
She's a dark one. I I'm not even gonna sit here and say I've never been in that situation, because I have. And at this point where, like, the money's out, we gotta eat. I would put my pride aside. I go to that food bank. I pick up an apple, some meat, some milk, and I make dinner for my family that night.
You're resourceful.
I gotta be resourceful.
That means you have to know the community in which you live.
Mhm.
You have to be familiar with the resources. Sometimes it's difficult to know about our resources. I
Yeah.
think as individuals who are on this particular campus, we have learned just by conversation that we have a food pantry here on campus. We even have clothes here on campus. We have support to enable us to get a on the bus for transportation purposes. We have computer loaners, and the list goes on, and so many other activities which many students are completely unaware of. So thank you
Yeah.
for letting us know part of being resourceful is knowing the community and what the community has to offer.
I would also I'd like to add that Norco, this campus itself, offers healthcare for students and mental health services as well. So if anyone needs to access those services, we do offer them here.
That was a phenomenal PSA. Thank you for that.
Right.
Diane, what do you want to add to it?
For me, so I like numbers, and I'm in hopes that a lot of people already know their budget for their month, right? And so if it does get to a tight month, I like Anna was saying, I'm not afraid to instead of buying the Doritos for my children, I'll buy the off-brand ones. And yes, it is a monthly sacrifice and a trade-off that that we as a family understand because sometimes it's a necessity that we have to fluctuate. We have to be fluid with the changes because of the price changes that occur, monthly or even annually, right? Put back into that savings. And so for me, I just think it's being fluid with your changes, being
Sure.
fluid with the inflation and the prices that.
So everything we've talked about is this concept in economics that we learn about budget constraints. So it's a big word, but these concepts are things that we talk about on a regular basis. And one thought came to mind as you were mentioning budget constraints, Anna and Diane. These examples of budget constraints was this idea that over time, the value of my income may change and I have no control over it. And so how do I resolve this? I don't have control over the changing price of goods, the changing price of groceries, the changing price of gas, and the list goes on. And one thing that I've done over time, when I do go to the grocery store quite regularly, and I think I shared in a previous episode where some of the ways I've controlled my spending is I don't go to the grocery store hungry anymore. And if I'm hungry or if my children are hungry, they do not go with me to the grocery store because we will buy based on our hunger. The other thing is I use the small basket. So let's say I know I only have $70 to spend and I absolutely need certain things to get through the end of the month. I go in with the basket rather than the shopping cart so that once it's full and my arm is almost falling off, I'm done spending. Whether I hit $70 or not, it's too big to carry. The third thing that I thought was pretty ingenious, certainly in the state of California, and I don't know how this applies to other states, was our grocery stores used to have the unit pricing. I don't know if any of you noticed that the per unit pricing, let's say on a box of cookies or a case of water, right? Water bottles and there was the per unit pricing, and what I would do for to stretch my money was look at the unit per bottle of water and that case of water, and then I would go along the aisle, not just look at $3.99 for a case of 40 or $5.99 for a case of 40 or $7.89 for a case of 40. I would literally look at the per unit cost for each individual bottle of water to determine, does it make a difference? Um, come on now,
Oh
high
my
five
goodness.
across the table. I love that. Thank you. Let's get this tax in there as well. And your money seems to leave sooner than you've been able to make it, which I think is so difficult sometimes to reconcile. So, in one of our prior episodes, we talked about the changing value of money, right? What are the impacts that you're feeling of inflation? Are you feeling it? I know some people who are like, inflation, what is it? And no, I have not seen a change in prices to anything. Any thoughts about the impact of inflation on your quality of life, on your lifestyle, even of late?
Yeah. For me, going back to the water bottle, right? Since my children play sports basically every day or every other day of the week. And so I find myself buying 4 big cases of 48%. And so, yes, each case might cost $3.99 plus the CRV. So at home, what we regulate within myself and the children are that you only bring bottled water whenever we leave the home. So that way it can
I like
decrease
that.
the amount of plastic pollution as well as the consumption that is done in the house that is not really needed because we already have. And so those are just the the switches that we within our home too that we
Love that.
lower.
I love that. I love that. Cole, I know you had something in mind.
I wanna go back to inflation. It's just you could definitely feel it, especially because, I think the amount you're making from the job, the inflation of, like, the increasing wages from the job is not keeping up with the actual inflation. So it becomes really obvious that your dollar at the end of the day is not going as far as you need it to from these once you get your paycheck back.
Yeah, and I'd like to add to that as well. Piggybacking off of that, we're also receiving products of like lesser quantity for the same price, if not more.
Right. Yes.
So those, I think I saw a video on TikTok the other day, or a
TikTok.
couple
I
months
like
ago, I
that.
should say. But they were comparing like the Costco, the peppermint brittles.
Mhm.
Sorry. But 2 years ago, like, the package was this big. This year, it's half the size, and then they increased the price by $2. So you're not only getting less, you're also getting charged a lot more. But I've also experienced that with myself and
Yeah.
going to the grocery stores too. I try to stay away from, like, the bigger grocery stores, the pavilions and all them, and just go straight to the smaller ones. If the Hispanic stores, you get vegetables for a fraction of the price.
Yeah.
And I feel like the meat department as well, just go to a butcher shop, they're far less expensive. I think it's just being resourceful too with just knowing your community, where to go buy groceries, where to go pick up meat, and also like like clothing too. We gotta be more resourceful with where we're buying it.
I love that. And you're pointing to something super important, and that Diane did the same, as well as Cole, which is to be mindful that there's a cost beyond the price that you pay at the cashier or in the store. There's a cost incurred for the water bottle that ends up in a landfill, especially if we don't recycle it. Clothing, fast fashion that we've talked about in prior episodes. Please check out our other episodes where we've talked about these concepts where clothing doesn't last as long. However, we buy it at a higher frequency, or that the price of goods has changed such that we feel that even a raise is not as significant as what we thought it was maybe a year ago or 2
Mhm.
years ago, because we still can't afford the same, what we call market basket of goods, given the income, even an increased income, because the price of those same products is changing. So what would you like to add? What are the other experiences that any of you would like to share, and how to even remedy this? I love this idea of using your community resources and making yourself resourceful within your community or the spaces that you inhabit.
Well, I think to add to the resources is to utilize even some of the like the food banks, right? For their ingredients, how it's fresh ingredients. And on top of that, also learning how to cook, learning how to stay in
Oh,
the
good
home.
Lord.
I mean, you're paying almost 14, $15 just for a burger and fries.
Mhm.
And, every week it's you a good amount of fraction of money. And so therefore, for me, cooking at home is a must need. There's no way I'm paying over $400.
That's great.
And that's 100% true. Like, the other day, I made, something that I normally go to a restaurant, a
What
specific restaurant
did
make.
you make, Cam?
I made you guys, I am a chef, okay? But I made some spicy vodka pasta that right, but it was a spicy vodka pasta that you get from a specific place, and they are famous for cheesecakes. And so, um, yes, I
Some good bread.
with good bread, yes. And so normally, if you go to that specific place that sell good cheesecake, you'll get that plate for like $25, with the drink, and actually that's without the drink, because the drink costs an extra $4 depending on what you get. But me, I get a soft drink, so I get an extra $4 for the drink, and then Plus you gotta tip the waiter, that's a must now, and so I made that at home. I made it for me, my parents, my 2 siblings, and my girlfriend as well, and I
Nice.
spent $25 on that meal.
That
$25 on that
that
meal
is phenomenal.
for divided by 6 people. No, 7 people. Yeah, divided by 7 people. So that really it really does, and I realized that not only that, you know what you're putting into your food, you're using, better ingredients, you're using better things such as, herbs and stuff like that, and like you said, even going to knowing your community, Asian markets, you go there, a you get a lot for your buck, a lot for your buck. You get fish, and I'm talking about fish with the eyes and everything, and it costs way more than if you go and you get you a bag of tilapia, and it costs way less than and so crazy because we don't talk about that, but yeah, knowing your community, knowing where you're shopping at is a very big difference. It's cooking. People, y'all have to start cooking. You will save so much money if you learn to just cook little things.
We've put out so many different solutions and so many different ideas. Cole, chime in before we close out this fantastic episode.
I just wanted to say that you also can know the quantity that you get from these meals too when you cook them at home. I've found that I'll go to a restaurant and I see a steak there, and then I want to get the steak, and it has an image. It's a pretty big steak, and then so I order it. It's like $30. It comes to the table. It's like a quarter size of that, and it's like I just got scammed right now, essentially.
Shrinkflation is real.
Inflation is bad, you know.
And no butter.
And no butter. I
Yeah, no
love
butter.
it.
You don't get any of that.
Doesn't even come with a soft drink.
I love it. These are such great ideas and so many great comments and examples that probably you've experienced as well. As you've gone about your day, as you've thought about your income, as you've thought about spending. So I'm so grateful that we've had this conversation where we've talked about concepts that we would discuss and learn about in the classroom, and yet they affect us every single day. I'd love to pursue a follow up conversation. So I hope you'll join us for the next episode of Debunking Girl Math, where we can talk a little bit more about the value of what we're getting, the perceived value of what we're getting compared to the money that we're spending on that particular item. And then also talk about how to be resourceful or being resourceful, which then cuts down the cost of an item. Why? Because we have been resourceful, as has been pointed out here by my co host. So, thank you for joining us on this episode of Debunking Girl Math, which has been a project funded by RCCD Foundation. We are so grateful for their funding here at Norco College, where we are taping this episode in the Umoja classroom at Norco College. And all of us here have a lived experience and great knowledge and skills that have been formed at our Norco College campus. Thank you for joining us. We hope to see you again next time.